Hey guys, welcome to this video. Welcome to part two of this solar flare series that I'm doing to share with you guys. I'm just kind of writing out these waves. So if you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. Welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness. I talked in my first video just all about some things we might be feeling, a little bit about solar flares. And so I invite you to go back and watch that video if you feel called to. If you're not familiar, I talk about solar flares all the time. So if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, I'll provide the link in this video. This is going to be me kind of utilizing this energy and going into a state of flow where I tune into my multisensory abilities to bring through what I call it my higher guidance team, has to share, my higher self, about what is this? What does this mean? I've kind of done this before, but we'll see if anything different comes through. It's always fun for me to do this. So it's meant to be felt, not necessarily understood. Sometimes light language can come through. It helps the energy and the vibration of the language can sometimes help us balance out what we're feeling. So as we make this shift as humans, as we make this shift in humanity, we are being called to uplift our energy, our field and presence, our field of presence. And we are currently in a field of presence, if you will. We are being, I'm hearing pennies from heaven, like gifted. We are being gifted this opportunity to realize our connection to everything. We are being gifted this opportunity to realize how expansive we can be. And this opportunity allows us to merge our diversity in a unification of recognition of the human. And we share this for a moment. We will go into several different messages. By the way, when I say we, you guys, it's me. It's a collective of energy that I'm tuning into from the future, from different dimensions. So, and my team. We share this in this way because it helps us to convey a message in a particulate, if you will, with particular information. And the more we play with the words, the easier it is to absorb the information from a multidimensional way or a multisensory aspect, or the different aspects in which we can share the information in this way helps the information to be felt. And so we are being gifted with these bursts, if you will. I'm hearing starburst, like the candy. It is a juicy package, if you will, a juicy packet, for all energy stores with it information. So I'm going to play with this a little bit. Information packets are available to us to open and to be revealed. When we say information, we're being called to stop and play with this for a moment. So I'm going to play with this just for a moment. I have to turn on my lights, so let me just turn this off real quick. I can't fix that right now, but okay. So I love playing with this, you guys, because it is, first of all, it's just so much fun for me. When I have information come through, what I'll do is I will feel into more. And so if I look something up, because I'm being called to look it up, I'll see where my eyes are guided to go. And the first thing that came up was information based on a digital application. In my last video, I kind of referred to the fact that we are quantum. So I feel energy coming from the sun when that plasma shoots off at that moment, not 3 days later when it hits the earth. I feel it then too. But I sense it in a different way. And some of us are more sensitive to that than others. But what I'm kind of tuning into with this is that I'm gonna read this. So I'm on Wikipedia, and whether whatever your views are on Wikipedia, I like to use it for synchronicity. So information, we're gonna call it the domain of information. This is defined by set theory. The domain of information is a set that the sender and receiver of information must know before exchanging information. Digital information, for example, consists of building blocks that are all number sequences. Each number sequence represents a selection from its domain. The sender and receiver of digital information number sequences must know the domain and binary format of each number sequence before exchanging information. By defining number sequences online, this would be systematically and universally usable. So I'm playing with this because, and it's kind of funny because it also says the number sequence would be globally comparable and globally searchable. I'm laughing about this because what I was seeing is that we're always exchanging information. These packets of information are already there. They're already stored. We could see the sun as sending out this signal. And for those of you who heard that and saw the movie The Matrix, I kind of was seeing the Matrix, those numbers, right, that were coming from the Matrix. It's like all of a sudden we may have this aha, where we're reading the binary code, or when I say numbers, everything is math, right? What is math? It's a geometry. Now, geometry is a type of math, but it's a shape, it's a sound, it's a configuration that resonates at a certain number. Think of 432 hertz. What happens when we resonate with the sound of 432 hertz? That 432 hertz is assigned to, as a number, to assign the definition to that vibration. So essentially what's happening from a woo-woo perspective, but also a science perspective, is this is sending out numbers. It's shifting the energy, the frequency, the pathways in which we receive the energy, the neurocomplexity, the complexity of the neurons begin to open and stimulate our senses. I'm back into flow, but they stimulate our senses, and we then allow ourselves to be stimulated by the energies that are coming in. As we open our neural pathways to, because, and through the frequencies that are being emitted, these packets of plasma information, I'm seeing like an information chain, which reminds me of DNA, triglycerides, all kinds of things. What happens is that information is then brought up from within our system, and the chain is opened, which is the DNA. So in a short, easy way of me saying this, it's enhancing our DNA. Our DNA is quantum. And if you guys have not heard about that before, I encourage you to look up Bruce Lipton, and I encourage you just to Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever you use for your search engine, quantum DNA. Is DNA quantum? What does that look like? Play with this, because it is starting to become more accepted and realized within the scientific community. All right, so our binary system is actually becoming more, and we are coded through evolution, if you wish to call it that, to store information. And some of us think of information as being a 3D, learning this or learning that. And I'm being called what I shared earlier, but we already know. You know the whole line, be still and know thyself, right? We're going to combine all of this. So when we have these big bursts from the sun, we respond to it. It enhances our electromagnetic stimulation, and it stimulates our glands. It stimulates our entire motherboard, our circuitry, then actively comes online to receive more information. But I'm being called, get out of the way of our view of information, because we think that means we're learning something. But from a broader perspective, from a quantum perspective, we already know this information because it already exists. So I'm going really multidimensional here. Think of it as broadband technology Think of it as the ability to expand the bandwidths and to reboot the system from one perspective, to anchor ourselves in the boots, to anchor ourselves into a new frequency expenditure, plan words. It allows us to expedite, from one perspective, the process. And as we tune in, turn up, and expedite this process, it allows us to activate an entire chain or dominion or chain of dominion, change our dominion, allows ourselves to tap into a new dominion of variety, variance, variability. And this changes the variables in how we interpret our reality. So as we do this, we begin to recognize there's more to this reality. Within these pockets of charge, we are then able to access more than what we have accessed before. For much is stored within the human complexity. There's a word they're trying to get me to see. It's like when there's a complexity. Anyways, it gives us access to this complex set of codes and mathematical equations that are held within the chemistry of the skin suit technology. For we are all connected to this earth. The earth is connected to the air. The air is connected to the water. The water is connected to the minerals. The minerals are connected to, and so on and so forth and through. So as the sun heats up me and you, we grow and shift accordingly. We change the processes in which we distribute energy or information. For in this information highway, we reach a higher definition of what energy, charge, information, and technology actually looks like and consists of. We are then enhanced by this. I'm hearing transformers, like when you blow a transformer. For the fuse has been set. And as this allows us to diffuse information on a much broader scale, plan words, it allows us to grow with this energy. For this energy that is coming in is giving us a growth squirt. That's the pineal squirt in the brain. It's a glandular activation. And it gives us the ability to upcharge, to sweep away some of the debris, because many of us have been hanging on to particulates, if you will, or particular stories, particulates of information that are locked into habitual programming. When something like this occurs, it breaks the door open, if you will. It causes us to change how we see our reality. It gives us more realization about our reality. Therefore, how we perceive our reality is different. If we perceive our reality differently, we access more. It is that simple, and yet it is also complex. For the human genome is complex and is constantly evolving in order to match the frequencies that are being offered, and vice versa. For the sun is also evolving, as well as the earth. And let us tune in for just a moment. So I'm going to try to drop in and go a little deeper into this. I'm just going to pause for a second. All right, I'm going to try to go a little deeper into this. And so, the sun offers us plasmatic radiation. This is going to be a little different channeling, so I'm just going to keep going here. It offers us the ability to radiate out from within that which is held from within. And so as we encapsulate this, if you will, and we express this together on this earth at this time, we are actually a walking expression of our star. We are each individual expressions of the plasma, thinking of plasma in the blood, that the star is giving us. For the star of the sun is giving us life. And so we are being birthed, if you will, in this now moment, in a deeper sense of the word. And this is what many have asked for or requested, is rebirth. Many of us have requested that the earth be activated, that we all be activated to our fuller potential. And so we tune into this because this is how it works. This is how it's always worked, yet now it works differently. Because once we have this activation, our bodies work differently. How we interact with our environment works differently. And this is a constant regulatory way of us keeping up with the higher expansibility, our ability to expand into the bigger version of me and you. We move out of density, one might say, for this plasmatic mobility that this offers gives us the ability to link up to a higher chain of information. We keep referring to this chain of information, for within this information is a set series or quandary, if you will, a set series of quandaries and activations that are applicable for social mechanics, for how it is that we interact on a social scale or social level, play on words, is important. For as we interact and commingle with one another, we are seeking to line ourselves up with what will enhance the evolution of the human, versus that which will take away from that evolutionary ability. There are some of us who hold a higher trajectory for this potentiality, for this potential reality than others. And we speak to you in this now moment, for you are the ones that activate fully within this technology and bring forward this ability to see more clearly how it is to interact with reality in such a way that we can interact with this reality. I'm being called to stop for a second. If we don't know, or we're not allowing ourselves to use this, to utilize this, it is essentially those of us that know how to do it are helping to create this kind of wave, right? That is a standing wave, that is the long wave. It's what Dan Winters talks about. We're creating this and assisting in, it's a ripple effect. It's the 100th monkey effect. You can Google that if you want to. So it's the 100th monkey. It's like all of a sudden something happens and all of us are able to do something that we weren't able to do before. It's evolution, DNA, it's quantum. Very exciting. So we are being called to jump with this, to take this leap, if you will, this leap of faith, this quantum jump, this quantum entanglement that each and every one of you is part of. And as we up level, so too do all things up level. For all is encapsulated within this bubble of reality, or subset, if you will, that holds a currency. We then activate and hold within us more currency. This changes everything. Going back to the social, this changes how we interact with currency. That is the material reality. It changes how we interact with voltage. It changes how we use voltage to interact with. I'm seeing Tesla, right? It changes how we view science. And it allows us to view science for new applications. It allows those of us and those of you that are scientists to change our view and reorganize factual information in a new order, in a new numerology, in a new numerological order. I'm being called to play with this. In a new numerological word bank. Okay, I'm going to play with this too. And it allows us to change certain documentation that held a particular pathology of information that no longer holds validity because the reality is different. And let us go into this a little deeper. We've talked about this before. Just went into a different flow, in case you didn't notice. For scientists have long been overwhelmed at times by quantum mechanics and string theory and the bigger picture of physics. For in our physical form, we use logic oftentimes to use cuneiform, written, what is that code? We use written information, I'm seeing a chalkboard with numbers all over it, to quantify our experience, to put into a quantification or multiplication or informative factual information that precedes us, play on words, has to do with time, to understand, to map out our reality, to understand more about our reality. And at times, this information has been presented in theory, or that form of mathematical composition that allows us to express a theory in form. Not only are we expressing this in our own form of the human body, we're expressing it in the template of mathematation. Ooh, play on words. Mathematics and imitation. Sometimes we have to imitate something in order to, like an experiment, right? Yet, because we are moving into this new chapter of how reality works, we must update the old chapters on how our reality works. Therefore, we are being called to close out some of the old chapters that have been usable for the memorization of information. But now our memory is remembering more. We are memorizing. I'm hearing memorandum, and I'm hearing realizing that within our memory complex is a new complex set of elements, a chemical design that was designed for us to implement this information in a more useful way. Many of the informational aspects of science have been put on a shelf. Many of the pieces of information or the formatting has been formatted to fit the reality or the understanding that we held within the old reality. Within this new reality, those formats will not hold. They will not substantiate the new quandaries. They will not be able to substantiate and hold with us or hold together the gluons, the new gluons, the new information, the new highway of information that is coming at us full steam, full stream ahead. Because I spin sometimes when I do this because it feels good. Just as if the language we are using in, I'm just going to drive me nuts because I'm not pronouncing it right. Is it cuneiform? Hieroglyphics, we'll just say that, is expressed in a particular format that maybe you as a listener do not know or literally understand or linearly understand. It is felt within the body. And within the body, it is remembered as I speak this language. It is remembered because I've spoken it before, and or I will be speaking it in the future, and or my ancestors have spoken it before, and it is held or encapsulated within my own DNA container. I'm hearing reticular, rectangular, autonomy, that's a play on words, anatomy, autonomously, anonymously, just all a play on words. It is an anomaly for some to speak this language, yet it is something that we each have within us, a hieroglyphic, if you will, of stored information. And within each of those symbols is a code, and within each of those symbols is a map, and within each of those maps is an availability for more information. So we go back to the digital networking description or format that we shared earlier in the definition of information. For information is in, form, at, the ions, And if the ionosphere is being affected overall by the sun's plasma, so too is the information that we are accessing. And this seems very simplistic to break this word down in this way and make that a new definition, but it is truth. It is just truth being expressed in a different variation of information or form through language. And through language we see, we hear, we feel, we use our senses to interpret the information that is channeling through this particular way, person, me. And so we are being called. Hi, buddy. Sorry, I had a little bit of an interruption there, but let me see if I can just kind of drop back into flow. So we'll start in a different area, but it all comes back together in oneness, and this is kind of the subject of what we're discussing. It all comes back into oneness. The universal codes and the information that are shared within this university, and we should play with this for a moment too, but I'm hearing universal diversity, the U inverse, us in spoken word, in the verse that's kept together for the codes of written word, to then co-create a story, a verse, right? Communication. I'm hearing inversity, like through diversity, we're coming back to unity and oneness, and recognizing that we are all connected through all things. And yet, we would venture to say that not all beings will respond positively to this type of radiation. For when light is radiated, there are those that seek the shadows. There are those that bind to that particular story, or bind to that particular truth, or bind to that particular reality. And that is their own diversity to do that. So while we recognize that many humans are up-leveling, so to speak, we also are being invited to recognize that each person has their own unique individual variance or way or variety of ways in which they are utilizing this information. And so the information, or the pathway and the way the information is stored, is going to be expressed through the human in their own version of what they feel, see, and sense in their reality. And so this is something to keep in mind. All right. Hearing a lot of background noise. And so we get to the heart of the matter. We'll play with this for a moment, for the heart is electromagnetic. It is a wave. It is a frequency that emits a frequency, a tone. And so we would invite you to tune into this more frequently. For during these expenditures of energy, we must reflect back to ourselves that which we wish to see. And the only way in which we, as a society, can band together in this unity code is to plug into the heart frequency and the codes that are written and stored within the heart. I'm hearing written on the heart. And this is not a physical, necessarily a physical definition. For all information that is stored is an energetic component, and it is quantum. For we are all collectively stored, if you will, within this fabric or ocean of energy. And so each of us is part of the greater picture. So we are moving forward in these new times, and we are being invited to call forward from our hearts what we seek to express in these times and how we seek to express time. And as we allow this to radiate from our heart center, we send out the signal, much as the sun is doing herself, himself, itself. I'm hearing heart self. And we co-create this new chapter together. How will we stand together in this new reality? How will we decode this information that is coming up that needs nothing to decode? It merely needs the feeling of standing within our center of awareness and feeling that focal point, if you will, to then focus our energy and attention on that which is being co-created together for the greater expansion, for the greater, I'm just seeing this beautiful light of just like rainbows and, oh, it's beautiful energy. And so as this information that is stored begins to come up, we invite everyone to come up with their own way of interpreting the information, using the heart as a variable, this is a play on words, as a way to play with this information. And acknowledge that some of the old information is also coming up to be played with. However, it is not necessarily in alignment with the completeness of the new packets of information. So what I'm seeing, just in a nutshell, and then I'm going to end on this note, there's a lot of things that are going to be coming forward that are already in the works, is what I'm hearing, about our reality. So for just a normal person, just like you and me, who isn't in the scientific world necessarily, maybe you are if you're watching this, but let's say you're just, going to work, you have a job that you enjoy, you've got your family, you're just going through life. It's going to be different for you. If you go into your heart, you're able to access more information maybe about you, about how you can help your family, about your creative talents, about a new hobby, about, maybe you have this newfound love for animals and, whatever it might be. On another level, it might be that we have this deeper awareness of how reality works. And all of a sudden, we have a different view on evolution. We have a different view on the history of humanity, because that history that we thought we knew actually is no longer true. And that's hard for people to understand and wrap their brains around because, well, it happened, therefore it's true. But reality is multidimensional. And the more we start to tap into the multidimensionality of reality, the less the foundation that the reality we think is in actuality changing, because we're changing our past, we're changing our future, everything is changing, nothing is set in stone. And that can be difficult for people to go, what do you mean? And I'm being called to play with this for a moment, because I'm hearing like, what do you mean 2 + 2 is 5? Okay, George Orwell reference. When someone has told us, we know our whole lives that 2 + 2 is 4, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, 2 + 2 is 5. There's a difference between what George Orwell was talking about in his book, and it's, this is going down the rabbit hole. So I'm just going to touch on this lightly. We've already experienced that. What I'm hearing, I'm getting goosebumps. Meaning that kind of was a reality we were living in, and we just didn't know it. And I'm not saying this in a negative way. We were taught foundational principles that upheld our society, that created a communication text, that it created our ability contextually to follow a diagram or a pattern that we then based our reality on. And while some of that was true, because clearly we used the mathematics to get to, to make rockets and all of that. I'm using it as a for instance in science. Obviously those numbers worked because we wouldn't have combustion, we wouldn't know, blah, blah, blah. But what I'm being shown is some of that was altered. And while some of it may have worked then, it really wasn't working to the best of our abilities. And some of it never worked. What I'm being shown is that we were told that it worked, but it really didn't. And I don't know what that's referring to, but we'll find that out down the road. It's irrelevant. For me, I'm not a scientist, but the scientists are going to look at this and go, well, no wonder why this never quite added up. Oh, well, no wonder why we couldn't quite get there. Oh, wow, well, that just needed a slight tweak and variation. And now because of that, we have a whole explosion of new theories that can actually be proven, right? And not just hypothesized is what I'm being shown. So this has to do with a lot in science and mathematics, which are intricately interwoven, of course, together. Also, this has to do with our understanding of how the universe works. So this has to do with astrophysics. This has to do with astronomy. This has to do with everything, right? Because once you have that one thing that changes all of our perspective on everything, everything falls into a new path to fit the new information. So it's not that that information is being forced on us. Before the information, it was trying to fit a square peg in a round hole is what I'm being shown. I'm literally being shown a circle with a square in it, and now we have a circle with a triangle in it, and then we're going to combine those, and oh, we didn't realize these fit together. And now it's fit together and it's created something brand new. Which if you fit these new patterns together, it changes the patterns of the old information somehow. This is also has to do with our human body, the chemicals in our body, and how we understand and interpret the way our body works, and how we understand and interpret the way our body responds to our environment. So all of this is shifting, our understanding is expanding, and so I'm just hearing, sit with this, be present with this information, and also use our discernment. Because that story, that 2 plus 2 is 5, if you've ever read 1984 by George Orwell, that was what I'm being shown is that's been there, done that. It's still trying to be done from us versus them perspective, which I don't like to get into. Because ultimately we're coming back to unity and oneness through diversity. But sticking with this topic, that was forced upon us. Right? And some things are trying to be forced upon us as real when they're not. And I'm not just talking about math. I'm talking about things in general, things in the political realm, things about our earth and environment that aren't true. Whatever it is, that's the 2 plus 2 is 5. But in actuality, we're like, well, wait a minute. Others are saying, wait a minute. That definition of how to get there, actually, 2 plus 2 is, I'm trying to see share what I'm seeing. Like, it's not addition. It's something else. Like, it's like 2 times 2 is this. So it's just playing with the new math is what I'm hearing. Play with the new math. But do it through quantum theory. Do it through interacting with the new platforms. Do it through that, and that will show us the truth of the new reality. And this will constantly be changing and shifting based on what we learn and understand, because we don't know what we don't know. We thought we knew, but we didn't, and now we know. But that'll change again in another 20 years, right? So this is all stuff to think about. Okay, I went off on a rabbit hole, tangent. I'm going to end on that note. That's what happens sometimes with these energies that come in. It's like, poof. Hopefully someone found this fun, entertaining, expansive, whatever it might be. Enjoy these energies, and I will do more sharings around the sun and what's happening as this progresses. So in love and light, guys, namaste. Just be open and playful and fun, and maybe just be curious is what I'm hearing. And not feel as if we're being, I'm hearing the word pigeonholed, not feel as if we're being pushed into something. This is an expansive time. Before we were pushed, we felt more dense. This is expansive. So being curious and being open, and not necessarily just believing anything that we hear. Asking, is that potentially true? And how would that be true? And how does that apply to me? How does that apply to my reality? So on and so forth. In love and light, guys. Namaste.